Time to do the lid. Broke this one up into two parts because I thought they were too long otherwise. I got 4 patterns that I designed with my daughter, Sophie, and just cutting them up here using those the shears that cut out the thin piece in between, which is the thickness of 2 layers of the copper foil, so your project doesn't grow on you as you cut it. These work out very well for this. I had glued the template I drew to a piece of thicker cardstock because I was going to be using this to trace, and since we're making 12 boxes, I wanted the templates to be able to hold up for me here. The straight lines were easy to cut. The curves were a little more difficult. They don't want to cut quite as cleanly here. You can see me kind of tight curve here, kind of fighting with it a little bit to make it cut. One thing I want everybody to remember, and I hope you do enjoy the videos, this is really only my 5th, maybe my 6th project, stained glass wise. And I'm making 12 of these boxes, first time doing the boxes, so quite a learning experience here. Not saying that my way is the best way to do it. I'm a little shy, I think, when I'm cutting. I'm cutting kind of past the line, and I'm going to grind to it, which ended up being a whole lot more work for me. In the long run, I need to trust my cuts a little more. I guess that just comes with time. Trying to lay out the, make sure I orientate the grain the right way on the glass so that the pieces line up properly and look visually appealing when I line them up. You know, it's an interesting note. I've actually been woodworking for 30 years, and as a woodworker, people ask me what I build. I tell them I build boxes. And so what am I building here? I'm building boxes. A little bit of irony there, I think. These are boxes that have been handed out for Christmas. So this video has obviously been being posted after everyone has gotten their boxes, because a lot of the people who subscribe to my channel are the family members who are receiving the boxes. Learning to cut the curves here, using the back of the glass cutter to tap to break the curve. Not as comfortable with the grosing pliers yet and breaking off the pieces, so I'm kind of learning my way through that. Of course, making 12 of anything gives you lots of practice on it. The breaking pliers are pretty easy to use. I don't have any problem with that. And here's the handiwork of all my cutting. A lot of glass. Now it's time for a lot of grinding. You should be happy that I have the sound effects shut off for the grinding. It's quite loud. Just to give you an idea. This is called that blue round thing. I think it's called a cookie. It helps me apply pressure into the grinding with the help keep my fingers from getting torn up on the edges of the glass. I have my grinder sitting in a little aluminum baking tray to catch the water, and I'm using a couple of little notebook covers that I took apart to go around it to catch the spray of the water. I'm using a magnifying light there. You can see that kind of gets in the way of the picture on some of the takes, and a lot of foiling to do. I designed the tops each to be only 4 pieces of glass. The boxes are approximately 4 inches square. But even with 4 pieces, that's 48, since there's 12 boxes. And here are a couple of the pieces here that are already foiled, ready to go. Now it's time for soldering. So I'm using a 2x2 sealing towel. I think I told you in the first video. And that allows me to use the push pins to hold things in position while I first tack everything in, and then come behind and do the full lines of solder. Finally found a decent way to apply my flux. I was keeping too much on the brush, and now the way I'm shaking the brush off, I'm getting less flux on the brush, which is stopping some of the spitting and sputtering I was getting when I soldered. And I also think I'm using a little lower temperature than maybe previously on it, but still melting the solder just fine. The couple of blocks of wood are just some wedges that I cut out to help me in lining things up. And then here I'm using to keep the piece vertical while I do the beading on the edge of the tops. One thing I missed on here is I was more involved with keeping the pieces looking together in the middle, having my gaps be small, but the pieces didn't end up being as square as I would like to have them been. And you can see that when they get mounted to the boxes, there's a little bit of overlaps here and there, and it's more of the learning process. In fact, because of the overlaps, I didn't need to put any kind of lid grab or anything on the edge of it. You can just grab the edge, no problem, and locks lid up. Okay, now it's time for hinges. Tinning the brass tube. One of the tips I saw on someone else's video was to use some toothpicks on the ends to keep the solder out. All I had was flat toothpicks. He recommended round, and that probably would have been a better choice. And also recommended not soldering all the way across, just 3 tabs being plenty strong enough for the small boxes. You can see over in the right hand top corner the little L pieces of metal. Those are the actual pivot points that work down onto the edges of the box. Using the jig I made in the last video to help me hold those at the right angle so the solder wouldn't go flowing all over the place. Hindsight being 2020, I wish I had not filled in the corners of the boxes with solder prior to welding the hinges, soldering the hinges on. It made the back corners with the hinges a little bulkier. Alright, time for the patina. And I see lots of different ways people have done it, but one of the early videos I watched was a guy using Q-tips, and it just kind of stuck with me as far as kind of precise placements of the patina as I work my way around. So I would patina all the edges, wipe off any excess, let it dry, wipe off any excess, and go from that right to the waxing. I had also washed the pieces after the last operation. Once the leads were soldered on, I washed all the old flux off and let them dry good overnight before I started my patinaing. Boy, that looks so much nice once you get the wax on. So I kind of worked my way both with the black patina work and the waxing. I worked from the outside in. Well, now we're waiting for it to dry. Waiting. Okay, dry. Now wipe off all the dried wax. But yeah, again, working my way from the inside first and then the outside made it easier for me to do. Even wax the bottom, make everything look nice. They really look good after the wax job, makes them look all nice and shiny. That's the aftermath of putting the patina on 12 boxes. All that is left is to put some feet on the bottom. Here are all the designs that I made as Christmas gifts for my family members. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you would please